A new proposed location for Thunder Bay's temporary shelter village. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Next Monday, City Council will be asked to endorse the new location being recommended by city staff. That new location is on Fort William Road, across from the CLE grounds, on a property currently owned by Lakehead Region Conservation Authority. It will require numerous approvals before going forward. Jessica Clement has the details.
City staff were sent back to the drawing board in November after council rejected the East Mile Street location for the temporary shelter village. Now administration will be going to council recommending they sign a lease for this property at 1111 Fort William Road. The site, located along the Nebang-McIntyre floodway and across the street from the CLE grounds, is currently owned by the LRCA. The chair of that organization's board, Donna Blunt, says city officials approached them about a potential lease in February.
At the first meeting, there was just a lot of discussion and a lot of questions. We did not make a final decision at that first meeting. Administration gathered more information for us.
Blunt notes during their March 26th meeting, the board of directors approved the request in principle, but there are a few things that need to be considered before the board makes their final decision.
The execution of an acceptable lease agreement, approval from the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks if required, and then final approval by the LRCA Board of Directors.
The temporary shelter village currently has a $5 million price tag attached to it, with half the capital funding already in place from the Thunder Bay District Social Services Board. Blunt says the LRCA recognizes that collaboration and cooperation is required to effectively address the needs and concerns of the community.
The LRCA is prepared to assist the City of Thunder Bay should it be determined that we are able to do so.
City officials were not available for interviews, but will speak about the new location on Wednesday. The recommendation will be brought to council on Monday night. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
The second-degree murder trial for 34-year-old Justin Coaster resumed today after a 2-month break. Coaster has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder and criminal negligence causing bodily harm. The victim was 37-year-old Charlie Finlayson. He died from a single gunshot wound to the head after a shooting at a home on McMillan Street in July of 2022. The Crown says the bullet also grazed a second person after it struck and killed Finlayson. Police spent 2 weeks searching for a suspect, leading to a standoff on Blucher Avenue where Coaster was arrested. Today in court, the lead investigator admitted there's no physical evidence linking Coaster to the murder. Earlier in the trial, one of the witnesses said another person had confessed to Finlayson's murder. The judge will hear final submissions on May 1st before rendering a verdict. Drivers here in Thunder Bay and across the country woke up to a huge price drop at the pumps this morning thanks to the removal of the federal consumer carbon tax overnight. It's led to prices at the pump dropping 10 to 20 cents a litre. Jaden Billick spoke to some local drivers today.
Thunder Bay area motorists got a pleasant surprise when they pulled into the local gas stations. The prices changed overnight, and gas bars on the north side of the city had the price at the pumps in the $1.35 range following the removal of the federal carbon tax. Meanwhile, the gas stations in Fort William First Nation offered even lower prices due to tax exemptions. And next door at K&A Variety and Gas Bar, the price dropped 11 cents overnight from $1.29 to just $1.18. Do you notice it's a significant drop for gas prices compared to recent days or months?
It's fairly significant, and also you could see the people are drawn out in droves because of it.
Are you filling up just your personal vehicle today? Do you have a couple jerry cans with you?
No, just my personal vehicle.
I brought the whole fort. I brought all my jerry cans and everything.
With the sudden relief at the pumps, many local drivers are now crossing their fingers that these lower gas prices won't be short-lived. The savings are a welcome change, and many are voicing their hopes that the prices stay steady.
I won't for the whole life, actually. It's helpful for everybody because everybody is so costly these days.
How much do you think you saved compared to recent weeks or months?
A lot. Hopefully it stays like this.
I drive a Nissan, so it's not horrible on gas. But yeah, today was like $10 cheaper.
Usually I buy my gas about $75 for my full of my tank, but today it's only $62.
Any final thoughts or opinions you'd like to say?
I hope they don't find a reason to put it back up.
Jaden Billick, TBT News.
Well, the entranceway and parking rules at the Thunder Bay Regional Hospital have changed again due to the upcoming construction of the cardiovascular surgery unit. The entrance at the revolving doors and the renal entrance are both closed until the big project is finished in 2028. The hospital is asking patients and visitors to use the western main entrance, where dialysis aides will also be stationed. The B1 or Bear parking lot will remain closed for the duration of the work, while the A3 or Fish lot near the Cancer Center will reopen in mid to late June. Drivers who are picking up or dropping people off are encouraged to use the Moose lot while waiting before driving up in front of the medical center. Hospital officials say further updates will be provided throughout the construction period. The new CEO of Matawa First Nations celebrated her first day on the job today. Sharon Nate says she's looking forward to building on the organization's previous successes. Former Matawa CEO David Paul Ashney-Penescom recently announced his plans to semi-retire. He's served in the leadership role for 25 years, helping Matawa's 9 communities grow over that time. Nate brings more than 20 years of experience, most recently as Executive Director of Matawa Education. While there, she led a number of major projects like the development of the Matawa Waka-Ter Language Revitalization Program. Nate believes this and many other achievements have prepared her well for her new role.
But also my beginnings back in Ibamatung, working with education there for the betterment of our youth. That enabled me to gain these skills, for negotiating, working with all levels of government at the local, provincial, federal level. So that's enabled me to carry forward into what I brought into Matawa education. And then what I've learned there, I'll certainly apply those skills here in the role as CEO for our Matawa First Nations.
Tomorrow is Autism Awareness Day, but today there's concern for the safety of students with autism in the classroom. That was raised at Queen's Park by parents of students who've had frightening experiences when they wandered away from school. CTV's Siobhan Morris has the story.
I need help. I can't take off work to take care of her, so I need some help.
A tearful plea from a desperate mom whose daughter with special needs has a habit of escaping, bolting from school 15 times in 2 years. She doesn't qualify for an educational assistant.
Being an EA myself, I know that it is very important to protect those special needs kids, given that I have one of my own, but it is very hard for me to do my job at my school and at my work, knowing that she is not safe during the day.
Last month, Chris Walters' nonverbal 4-year-old daughter slipped out of school. She wound up 3 blocks away.
She was found in the middle of the road, walking down the lanes, and traffic was going around her. The fact that she may not have come home that day is horrific.
A possibility motivating parents, advocates, and opposition politicians to call for more supports in schools.
A spokesperson for the Minister of Education stresses schools must have plans to keep their students safe. She goes on to say the government has spent more each year it's been in office on special education, $4 billion annually, and they've hired 4,000 more EAs.
Even if they are giving more than has ever been given in the past, clearly it's still not enough.
A report last month by the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario found that English public boards have an average of 1 EA for 10 kids with special education needs.
Government has to turn its attention to this.
With the new legislative session 2 weeks away,
as someone with special needs kids, as someone who is new to the legislature, this will be an issue that I will be fighting for.
Also pushing to help kids with autism waiting for years to be assessed or to access therapy.
The government pledged to fix the autism waitlist in 2018. We are now here in 2025, and the issue has never been worse.
For the parents who send their kids with special needs to school, terrified when their phone rings.
There has to be change. There has to be more support so that this isn't a reality for us, and it's not a reality for other parents.
At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
The family of a local 4-year-old girl with autism is expressing frustration after she was shut out of specialized therapy under the Jordan's Principle legislation. They're one of many families in the Northwest who've been denied services. They worry about the negative impacts this will have on their daughter. Emma Chilton reports.
Scarlett Cully was diagnosed with autism in 2023 and has been participating in an applied behavior analysis program full-time. The ABA therapy had a positive difference on Scarlett's development, but with the cuts to Jordan's Principle funding, Scarlett can now only participate in the ABA program for a limited time. Her parents, Patrick Cully and Jamie McGuinness, are now worried about the negative impacts this will have on her development.
Under the Ontario Autism Program, we're able to access bare minimum core clinical funding, I believe it's called. I'm not quite sure if that's the appropriate term for it, but it will allow Scarlett to attend on a very limited basis of 2 half-days a week. It is the bare minimum. In fact, her doctor and specialists all seem to recommend 35 to 40 hours of full-time ABA a week.
Jordan's Principle is a human rights principle established by the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal to ensure First Nations children do not face gaps, delays, or denials in accessing government services because of their identity as First Nations children. Cully says that it costs $217,000 a year for Scarlett's therapy.
I want the public to be aware of the cuts that are being made to the Jordan's Principle program and to the impact that it's having on not only the children that the program serves, but the families of the children. And I want the people of Canada to realize what is happening with the systemic dismantling of a program like Jordan's Principle.
Cully says Scarlett's last day of full-time therapy was Friday, and she's now starting her 2.5-day weeks in ABA.
Exhausted, stressed out, uncertain, questioning whether or not I'm able to provide for her, at home. If she's going to be spending much more time at home, how am I able to facilitate the same type of therapeutic interventions that these folks who have been trained extensively are implementing for my daughter?
Emma Chilton, TBT News.
Students at St. Anne's School took part in Autism Awareness Day activities a day early to get them to appreciate the beauty on the spectrum. The grade 4-5 class joined kids from the school's Creative Therapy Pathways program to create tie-dye t-shirts to celebrate neurodiversity. Tie-dye has become the symbol of the autism community. Teacher Laura Palaiko says she was inspired by her friend, NBA coach Scott Morrison. He has a child with autism and created the To the Max Foundation to help all kids reach their maximum potential.
The students write an essay on, what's their max, what's their potential, do they have any challenges, how are they, overcoming these challenges and using these abilities to be successful. And so we did that, and we thought, well, what better way to tie it all together than do a tie-dye activity, a chaotic tie-dye activity.
Anytime that we have an opportunity to share with our kids about neurodiversity, it makes the world a better place. Our kids in our classrooms right now are so diverse, and anytime that we can expose any of that learning to our kids, just makes it a more inclusive and welcoming kind of place for our kids.
Officials with Ontario shipyards are optimistic the quick and successful repair of the federal Yoshino will attract more business for the Thunder Bay shipyard. The ocean-going vessel was forced to spend the winter here after it struck a submerged portion of a wharf in the Cam River. Ontario Shipyards quickly mobilized its local facility and dry dock for the repair contract. The century-old shipyard had been largely idle except for a skeleton crew to maintain it. This new project allowed the company to temporarily bring back 10 to 15 of its employees and a number of subcontractors. Director of Business Development Ted Kirkpatrick says they have every intention of using the Thunder Bay location as best they can moving forward.
We are somewhat still stuck in the boom and bust cycle that is shipbuilding, ship repair. So we've had to adjust the way that we operate the Thunder Bay shipyard. But I think the Federal Yoshino was a great example of how we can be effective there and on short notice. So Thunder Bay continues to factor into our plans moving forward.
Let's turn our attention to the weather now. And Haley, I made sure to get out and walk around the neighborhood a little bit today, midday, because I don't think I'm going to get that chance tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're going to want to
No.
tomorrow. Yeah, Mother Nature is planning a belated April Fool's Day prank on us. Was kind to us today for the most part, but unfortunately, it won't be the case tomorrow, but let's stay positive for now, why don't we? Let's enjoy today. Today we saw a high of 2 that happened around 3 o'clock. It didn't last long, so we hovered around 1 degree for most of the afternoon, but hey, we hit 2. And we saw a mix of sun and cloud leaning on the cloudier side. We started off the day mainly sunny and then just became progressively cloudier. Our low we hit early in the morning around 7 a.m. was -12, feeling like -17 at the coldest portion of the morning. But not too bad once we warmed up, and we warmed up fairly quickly, and our winds weren't too gusty until they came from the east. They picked up a little bit, but nothing too crazy, at most 21 kilometers an hour. Now, for our region today, the general consensus was fairly nice. Now, once again, we don't want to take that for granted. There were some areas to the north that were colder and didn't quite get above the freezing mark. We see -4 in Pickle Lake, but they still saw a lot of nice sunshine today. In Red Lake, they saw mainly sunny to mostly cloudy. They're at -1 right now. Their low, though, was -17, feeling like -25. So that's still a fairly nice warm up. For most areas that are still below the freezing mark, they're seeing wind chills affecting them about 4 degrees, feeling like. So Armstrong, -3 right now, feeling like -7 or -8, give or take. Now, Armstrong also had a cold night last night. And leading into a colder morning, -20 this morning, feeling like -26, and early this morning, even Greenstone felt like -29, which would be a risk of frostbite. So they've warmed up, they're seeing sunshine, which is nice. Some of the other lovely areas, Fort Frances at 4, we see 3 in Atikokan and Upsala. They saw a mix of sun and cloud today. Once again, majority of the west, if winds were from the east, they were slightly gustier, but nothing too crazy. Now, other areas just around the freezing mark with, once again, that mix of sun and cloud. Now let's get into the serious business, why don't we? Let's take a look at our warnings. Now, Thunder Bay, unfortunately, is one of the areas that's looking to get hit the hardest with this incoming system. As Fiona kind of explained to us yesterday, if you were able to catch that, the brunt, like the center of the system, is focusing in on Thunder Bay. So we're looking at seeing 20 to 30 centimeters over the course of Wednesday morning to Thursday morning, and that will come with winds from the east-southeast. So that could gust up to 70 kilometers an hour at times, really reducing visibility. So definitely be careful tomorrow. Maybe plan your day out ahead of time so you can try and avoid the snow as much as possible. Now, areas outside of Thunder Bay, you could see warnings across the region. They're typically looking at snowfall warnings. What that means is most areas could see 15 to 20 centimeters of snow. Now, there are a few areas with just weather advisories. That's areas like Kenora and Sioux Lookout. They're looking at more to 10 to 15 centimeters of snow, winds not gusting as intensely. And then there's also freezing rain warnings in areas like Wawa and Sault Ste. Marie. They're going to get snow, but it'll be mixed with freezing rain, up to 1 to 5 millimeters of accumulation there. So across the region, prepare yourself. Now for tonight in Thunder Bay, we'll focus on not too cold, and that'll be the trend. This system will not cool us down too much, but it will come with lots of snow. So there will be a 60% chance of flurries overnight, a low of -1, feeling like -7. Winds not too gusty, luckily, but that 60% chance is going to start around 3 in the morning, Ryan. And once we get from that point on, that's when you're really gonna wanna be careful when you head outside.
Okay, thanks a lot, Haley.
No problem.
Yeah, hopefully